Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tennis Weekly with Joel, Kim, and Chris. On today's US Open Round 3 catch-up,
Sinner survives Shapovalov test,
Rybakina dominates Raducanu again.
and Guaff sets up a blockbuster showdown with Naomi Osaka.
Chris, today is the 30th of August, and we are here to catch up on round 3 of the US Open at Tennis Weekly HQ. We have got a lot to talk about. A lot of action has happened over the last couple of days. We are coming off the back of Jannik Sinner breathing a sigh of relief, coming through a wobble, let's say, against Denis Shapovalov. Coco Gauff, Naomi Osaka is set for a prime time Monday showdown. We're going to be talking about that. And we're also going to be talking about in the second half, Raducanu versus Rybakina. I had high hopes. They fizzled out very, very quickly, but we're going to get onto that in the second half, along with Taylor Townsend and Elena Ostapenko. We do have a slight update to give that has come out this evening from Ostapenko. We're going to be diving into that. We're going to be talking about the unfortunate withdrawal of Ben Shelton and the start of round 4. We're going to be looking ahead to all the matches tomorrow. And Chris, we're also going to be chatting about, you shared this on our chat, a mid-match marriage proposal.
It's all been happening. I think Sabalenka said it's the first time it's happened for her. I do think, we've both been to the US Open. It's the sort of one where that could happen and no one would really even notice because it's so loud in there. I mean, at Wimbledon, if someone proposed, I think that would, again, be quite a big disturbance.
Hang on. So is it like Australian Open crowd, drunken alcoholics shouting at Rafa, US Open, mid-match marriage proposal? That feels to me more like a Wimbledon thing, not a US Open thing.
I guess Wimbledon is sort of the pinnacle of tennis. So if you're going to do it, maybe it should be at Wimbledon to make it extra special. But a lot of dates happen at the US Open when I was there. I think it's more of a spot to go to, but I'm hoping that was planned prior to them kind of turning up, not just like a Tinder whim.
I mean, perhaps most interestingly, it happened during Sabalenka versus Leylah Fernandez. And hasn't Leylah Fernandez recently been kind of like, I need to go on more dates?
Yeah, she went on she opened up her DMs. She went on a date with somebody, and then she went on a second date with someone. So maybe she'll get proposed to if her and Venus, win the title.
I mean, there was another viral moment we will be talking about in the second half, which has caught a lot of attention about I'm not going to name them for now, but a person in the crowd stealing a hat of a player off a child. Big news that has, been doing the rounds. But we're going to be getting on to that in the second half. As we're recording, matches are happening. We've got the night session also to look forward to. I mean, Daniel Altmaier versus Alex de Minaur has just started. Wong and Rublev are into a fifth set. I'm sort of worried for collector set. We already have 2 players out. Rublev is there. He's hanging on by the fingertips at the moment. So maybe as we go, we'll update and see how that goes on. But Kim will be very delighted because one match that has finished, Jaume Munar threw in straight sets.
Made very light work of Zizou Bergs. I mean, that was 1-4-4. So although her bold prediction that he would lose to the seed in the previous round didn't come true, surely she'll be pleased that Mallorca is represented in the 4th round.
Indeed. And we just actually have to give a very quick correction from our episode, our most recent episode, our round 2 episode. Correction, Serena, who said about Hingis that she guess it has a little bit to do with not having a formal education. So we just wanted to correct that there. But let's move on, Chris. And we did have hot off the Instagram stories press, Elena Ostapenko.
11 minutes ago, Joel.
11 minutes ago, and exactly. You've heard it here first, listeners. But Elena Ostapenko has delivered another Instagram story update post the kind of beef argument she had with Taylor Townsend. Now, I'm just going to read some of the excerpt and we're going to kind of talk about it because quite interesting. Elena Ostapenko, hi all. I wanted to apologize for some of the things I said during my second round singles match. English is not my native language, so when I said education, I was speaking only about what I believe as tennis etiquette. But I understand how the words I used could have offended many people beyond the tennis court. I appreciate the support as I continue to learn and grow as a person and a tennis player. Goodbye, New York, and I look forward to being back next year. Chris,
Mm.
what are your immediate thoughts on the latest Instagram story note we've had from Ostapenko?
Well, she doesn't say she's sorry to Taylor Townsend is my key thought. I think we're getting quite
Mm.
good at sort of analysing these sort of statements that go out. There are more and more of them that go up. And actually the format she's put so many things on her story that she actually has got like a
Has she
full
got
template.
ChatGPT to write this?
It does feel like she's really pumping them out at this point. But I would say there's no apologies that should be put publicly that don't go first to the
Mm.
individual. So I'm hoping that Taylor will say after her next press conference that Elena did reach out. She did say some things that she said, so not everything that she said. And I think at this point, it clearly shows that she doesn't really care. It's more the fact that she has got a lot of heat for it. And she doesn't want to it feels like damage control
Mm.
as opposed to a genuine apology.
Yeah.
I do, but
She's saving her own image here, it feels like, more than actually delivering a direct apology to Townsend.
yeah, and I think it would have been nice if it appeared from Townsend that Yelena had reached out to her, and then that's
Mm.
very classy, the way of doing it. I also do, personally, I've been talking to a lot of people who aren't native speakers, and they would say education in terms of tennis etiquette, they wouldn't know how else to describe that. Like you lack a tennis education, and
Mm.
they were talking about tennis. So I do think you can give her the benefit of the doubt, but I do agree with what we said last time that you shouldn't go anywhere near that topic when it comes to, issues of race and all of this. You need to stay well clear. So, I mean, she's put it out there. She said goodbye to New York. Are we saying goodbye to this story, Joel?
We'll see. I mean, it's an interesting one because we're going to get on to the second half, Taylor Townsend, because she is still continuing her run. She had a fantastic win against Mira Andreeva, and in an odd sort of way, the only kind of positive I can take from this situation is the fact that it feels like it's fueling Townsend and her tennis, and it's really raised her game.
I think she really was playing well when she beat Ostapenko, but I feel like the moment is hers. I feel
Yeah.
like this story, the way she's handled herself, the way she's taken on, the night session match on Ashe, it just feels like she's meant to be doing this. She's that sort of player who really does kind of produce a show, especially on a big stage. And we'll talk more about her performances, but it does remind me of that kind of
Mm.
epic where she took out Halep. She does do these sort of wonderful things. So you just hope that from this, from the attention she's getting, that she does get more sponsorships because she deserves it. She's so talented, doubles world number one.
Mm.
And then people can talk about how great she is and not the fact that someone said some very unfortunate things to her.
Yes. Yeah. So we'll talk about a bit more about Townsend in the second half, but let's focus on some of the matches that have happened already today because we've got to talk about Jannik Sinner versus Denis Shapovalov. Jannik Sinner coming through in 4 sets, 5-7, 6-4, 6-3, 6-3. He's into the round of 16. He won 12 of the last 15 games. But how do you think Jannik Sinner will be assessing his performance against Denis Shapovalov?
I mean, it wasn't great. It
Mm.
really wasn't good. The first serve percentage was up and down, although he was at 58% for the match. At times it was down at 33 at the start of the third set. He really had to refocus. When he was 3-love down, points for a double breakdown, it was a very unusual thing to see because he looked very beatable. I don't think Dennis was playing out of his mind tennis. He was playing great
Yeah.
tennis, but it wasn't the sort of tennis that would normally sort of cause that much of an issue to Jannik Sinner. So the serve is a strange one to me that's kind of gone walkabout at times. And when you look at the serving numbers, I mean, Dennis is not famous for having the best serve in the game. He's got a very good serve. He hit 15 aces to 9 double faults, whereas Sinner hit 5 double faults and just 2 aces. And he normally gets so much done, on the serve. So really surprising when you think about, just how good he can be behind his serve. Really unusual. And I think if he is going to go further and kind of win the title, he's got to do more because this wasn't the sort of
Mm.
performance that should be kind of striking fear into the heart of Carlos Alcaraz. It's actually going to encourage the rest of the field that they actually have a shot at this.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely showed that Yannick Sinner is vulnerable at the moment because Denis Shapovalov, he did play well, but at the same time, it sort of actually paid into Sinner's hands because unfortunately, we did have the kind of the Shapovalov, um, you know, mental lapse, going walkabout,
You know,
and
talking to his box, screaming at his
oh
box, the
yeah,
sarcastic
it's
thumbs up.
so annoying because that
Mm,
first set he was so good, and even when he got broken back in that first set, he didn't let it, he didn't let it, affect him. He did get called for a foot fault. He did have a kind of a polite ask with the umpire. Didn't let that affect him, and was able to take it. So, it's just so frustrating in terms of the talent that he is able to show, and at times in the match, I did feel like, he was impressing me. I was looking at his form this year. He's excelled the most on hard courts. He won in Los Cabos. He also won in Dallas early in the year, both on hard courts. And although his Grand Slam record this season hasn't been that great, I mean, I think he went out to Navoni, for example, in round one of Wimbledon. He has done things on the tour this season to show some progress. And I thought it was a really interesting comment that Tim Henman had, I think, on commentary, that actually someone like Shapovalov is quite good for Denis for sorry, I'm getting it mixed up.
Dennis is good for Dennis.
He was kind of saying, like, the style of Jannik Sinner is also good for Denis Shapovalov because of the way he hits, coming fast, very quickly at Shapovalov. It didn't give Shapovalov time to think, and actually, he was playing a lot on instinct. And I think actually that's maybe where you get the best Denis Shapovalov, because we've seen time and time again when he does have time to think, he sometimes goes for the big shots. It's not quite right, and his point construction is called into question a little bit.
For sure. And that would kind of speak to the fact that in that third set, when things did get a bit tighter, when Sinner was not striking the ball so well, he was not moving as well either. When he did have that time and he was able to think, he kind of, went into meltdown. I mean, from 3-love up, break point for 4-love, it felt like the worst Sinner played, almost the worst Dennis played. And then Dennis sort of lost it mentally. So it's a shame because he always sort of does this. You're just waiting for it. You see something switch in his eyes and it goes from like determination and focus and comfortability to something completely different where he just looks panicked and stressed, and then it just ends up being a bit of a non-contest. But having said that, he did regroup pretty well in that fifth set, and he did get very close to breaking back. So even the service game where he was serving for the match was not even very Jannik Sinner-esque. Normally he shuts that door, such a good front runner. So it'll be interesting to see like how his level improves, because is there something going on we don't know about? I really don't know. I can't tell, but all I know is this is not the Sinner Express that we've seen previously.
Yeah, it might serve as a wake-up call. And I guess for some fans, neutral fans, it's sort of a little bit exciting because it's been so boring watching quite a few of Sinner's hardcourt matches, so far. He's so dominant on the surface. So actually to have a test like this, to know that, that I need to raise my game, it might serve better for him going deeper into the tournament. But yeah, intrigued to see how Denis Shapovalov gets on, because I also was just thinking maybe it's a reason why he excels in best of three on the tour. Yes, they are kind of lower level events, but that best of three set format, best of five, maybe his concentration again, it's called into question a little bit more there. But we will see how Jannik Sinner gets on. Very excitingly, Chris, let's move on to the ladies, because Coco Gauff and Naomi Osaka, they are both through. They both won today. They have set up a blockbuster round 4 showdown, which we can only think will be Monday night on Arthur Ashe. Coco Gauff winning against Magdalena Frech 6-3, 6-1. Naomi Osaka also coming through in 3 sets against Kasatkina 6-love, 4-6, 6-3. Let's start with Coco Gauff, because the last time we saw Coco Gauff on the tennis court against Donna Vekic, I mean, one of the lasting images from that match was her crying. Tears on the court. I think 4-all in the first set. A completely different story today.
Completely different. I think almost the outpouring of emotion after that match, that night session match, where she talks about like the nerves and the pressure. And normally she's someone who can thrive on that. The fact that it was really stressing her out. She really wasn't enjoying it. In her previous match, I think sometimes when you allow yourself to just let go of all of it, it can actually make you feel a lot better, because you realize that the worst case scenario isn't actually that bad. You've won a slam this year. everyone knows you're doing your best. And I think the pressure that you put on yourself, although can sometimes be a positive thing, she said normally she kind of thrives in those moments. I think for her, she's just not feeling confident. And I think that's where it all comes from. I don't think it's the pressure of the public. I don't think it's the pressure of playing the night session necessarily. I think it's the pressure of not feeling confident when you're in some of these moments and all the changes she's tried to make with her serve as well. But the positives is that it's getting a hell of a lot better. So much better, this performance. And from the off, it felt a lot more secure. 4 double faults. I know that's the number we keep talking about. I mean, maybe we should cut her a break, but the serve was really working. She made 76% of first serves, and then she won 71% of those points behind the first and the second. So the second serve winning 71% is really great considering, I mean, Frech only won 39% of first serve points. So I think she's turning a corner, and I think the only thing that makes me a bit concerned is the fact that she will be playing, Naomi Osaka. And I mean, that is going to be, if it wasn't just the pressure on herself, the pressure of that match, I mean, that is a huge match.
Yeah. And they've had previous at the US Open where Osaka defeated her, I think, back in 2019 in a real formulaic, straight sets job. But
3 in love, Joel.
3 in love. Wow. Yeah. So yeah, very, very interesting. I mean, yeah, in some ways, Frech was the best opponent, post Vekic in round 3 because she had such a good record against her. I mean, 6-1, 6-2 at the Australian Open last year, 6-3, 6-3 in Rome last year as well. So a very kind of comfortable, kind of continuing that, trajectory. But as you said, completely different matchup next against Naomi Osaka, who admittedly did have a mid-match wobble against Kasatkina today. But similar question on Osaka: how impressed were you with her performance against Kasatkina and the fact that she was able mentally to regroup going into that final set?
I'm always a bit nervous when, the wheels come off the train for Osaka because you don't know if they're going to come back on.
Yeah.
Especially, what went down in the Cincinnati final. That was not the sort of tennis that she wanted to be playing. And she almost wanted to get off the court as quickly as she could in that final set.
Was it Cincinnati, Canada, and Boco?
Oh, sorry, no, it was Canada.
Canada, yes.
Sorry.
I know what you were thinking, yes.
I was getting confused with Cincinnati because she got to the final there before and, didn't end up playing that final, I think. But we're very much in Canada for this one, but now we've moved to the States for this match she just played. I just think it was very strange to me how she went away there, and it made me concerned after the long break she took. She went to the bathroom, she came back, and thankfully she did regroup. But there were a couple of really close moments, and Kasatkina probably is one of those players who could really cause her some problems because it is
such an awkward opponent.
Mixing up the pace a lot. So I was impressed with her in a way that I was also thinking in that third set she wasn't the favourite.
Especially also after winning the first set 6-love, to go from that to then losing the second set 6-4. Yeah, I was also kind of similarly impressed with how she didn't panic because that final in Canada, it felt like she was completely, out of it really at times, not really kind of focusing on the match in hand. And I wondered if this was going to slip from her against such an experienced and wily opponent in Kasatkina. So she did very well, I think, to kind of stem the momentum and wrestle it back in that third set. And we do now have Osaka Gauff. Gauff leads the head-to-head 3-2. But as I mentioned, Osaka beat Gauff back in 2019 at the US Open. The last match they played, interestingly, Gauff won. It was a set all, and Osaka retired. That was in Beijing last year. All their matchups have been on hard courts. I mean, Chris, where do you see this match being, won and lost? And how much of a factor do you think? And let's assume that it's going to be Ashe in the night session. How much of a factor do you think that will be for two players who recently have shown mental fragility?
I guess it levels the playing field a little bit because it's such a big stage for both of them and one where they really do want to do well. I mean, the world will be watching. In terms of the matchup, I think it depends on if Osaka is playing like plan A, because we've seen Coco is so good at winning matches against big hitters by getting the ball back in the court, controlling her side of the net, and letting them sometimes beat themselves and kind of weaving her web. And I think that's going to be really key. I think Osaka needs to stick to a game plan. I think she's got to keep going after the ball because Guaff is such a good mover. So I think it will be fascinating because the nature of the clash that they had last year, I was left kind of wanting more because it didn't finish.
Mm,
It felt like it was a really interesting matchup, one of the first times they've actually
yeah.
gone to potentially 3 sets. So I would like to see a really good contest. I probably do think that Osaka might be slightly the better player at the moment, just because of the fact that she does have more confidence coming into this. But I was going to say that seems strange to say where we were just a few months ago, where we were thinking that
Yeah.
Osaka might be hanging up the racket for this year or
It's
having another
crazy.
pause, and now we're saying she's the favourite to beat Coco Gauff potentially
I
in the
mean,
US Open.
this is the first time she's back in the fourth round of a Grand Slam since Australian Open 2021. That is too long for a player of the talents of Osaka. I think the biggest unknown for me at the moment, just looking at the matches that Osaka has had this tournament, they've all been on Louis Armstrong. Um, they've been against opponents that, I guess, Kasatkina today, the higher seed, but I don't think. I think it's going to be a completely different proposition being put on Ashe. 20,000 20,000 fans, probably. Some will obviously be cheering for Osaka, but Coco Gauff at home,
Mm,
and we just saw how that went for her against Mboko
mm,
in Canada, a home player as well.
mm,
So I think she's going to have to, reflect on that matchup and think about
mm,
how do I prepare differently, because
mm.
it's going to be a very similar situation, and the way she handled it last time was not the way to handle it.
She's got a draw and experience she's had on Ash before. Like she was up against Serena Williams, and she
Yeah.
had the crowd against her in that match and she came through. She's got to remember, the champion that she is. And I think that's something where she really does belong here. I think she hasn't felt like she belongs here for a while. So I'm hoping it's the moment where everything switches back into gear for her. I'm not saying I hope Coco Gauff loses at all. Definitely not.
No.
But I'm hoping that we get kind of one of the best fourth round matches that we could possibly have at
Yeah.
a slam.
On paper, this sounds great, but as I said, like given where these potentially too, it has the recipe to be car crash tennis. It's sort of why,
Yeah.
I think we're so kind of interested in seeing how this goes. We do have a night session this evening. We've got Kalinskaya versus Swiatek, Bublik, Paul on Ashe, and then we have Zverev, FAA. On Armstrong, along with Haddad, Meyer, Zachary. I feel like in the graveyard slot on
Hmm.
Louis Armstrong. Not sure how many people are going to be staying for that, but just quickly before we go to a break, Kalinskaya Swiatek. We have been talking a lot about this match. You have been talking to me a lot about this match
Mm.
because you just have a hunch, don't you? I think about a Kalinskaya.
It came to me in a dream, Joel. I just suddenly thought Kalinskaya is going to do something at the US Open. And then the draw came out, and I suddenly thought Kalinskaya is not going to do anything at the US Open. But they played a couple of times. It's a bit more even than you might think from a head to head, even though she did lose in straight sets quite recently. I I'd be seated for that one, that's for sure. I do have a vested interest. There is a pastry that I bet with a friend on this, so I might be rejoicing the next time I'm on the podcast, or I might be forking out.
Okay, and very quickly, I just completely forgot to do this prediction. Sorry for Osaka Goff. Who are you going and how many sets?
Oh, it's tough, isn't it? As you say, I think it could go any direction. It could be 1 in 3, either way. I'm going to say it's going to go to 3 sets, and I just think that Osaka is going to do it. I really do. I think she's too, as you say, she's too good a player not to have been deep at a major. And I think there's something about things coming together here in a way that
Mm,
I'm not sure they're quite going to come together for Coco.
yes, I'm gonna go Osaka in straight sets.
Close
Yeah,
sets?
I think they will be close, but I think I'm gonna give the edge to Osaka just because I've not been filled with confidence. Let's say with how Goff has and her tennis have handled themselves when she's been on Ashe so far
Mm,
in the night session. So you know.
So we've both gone for
We're
Osaka.
going to go
So
both
that
go
means that Goff
Osaka.
is definitely
So
going to win.
Goff is
Yeah.
definitely going to win. Yeah. Right. We're going to take a quick break now. Do join us in the second half where we will be looking back on day 6 action, including Emma Raducanu's US Open journey coming to an end at the hands of Elena Rybakina, Taylor Townsend keeping her dream run going, and a French surprise, Adrian Manarino moving into round 4 as Ben Shelton retires. So do not go anywhere. Welcome back to the Tennis Weekly podcast and on to day 6 at the US Open. And big news, Chris. I've mentioned it at the start of the episode. A viral sensation before we get into the action because one of the matches, Kamil Majerak, sorry, I'm going to just say apologies in advance. The Polish player won through. Sadly, he retired today. This happened, sorry, I think on day 5, actually, not day 6, but it's just been, the story has been carrying because he had a hat and it looked, for all intents and purposes, his hat was going to be going to a child, a fan on the court in the stands. But a adult, a guy, like literally next to the kid, just literally took the hat, put it in his wife's bag, and then ran off.
Quite shocking, isn't it? Because it was all very, felt like he just tried to do it secretly. You know, he almost had a plan, get it in the bag. The kid was obviously saying that they were upset about it. So, I mean, we've seen this a few times, and it's like, do you not think that someone's going to pick up on this?
Do you not think someone's watching?
Right? Do you have no shame?
Bizarre.
It was really bad, really poor form. And I'm glad that social media exists, one, because people like this get called out for it, but also the kid, I'm sure, is going to be found because Marjak did put this on his story that ASICs are going to try and get something to the kid. And hopefully it'll be a much better experience for them. But you don't steal from children. I didn't think that'd be a lesson we'd had to dish out on the podcast, Joel.
Even for like the US Open, crowd. There are articles out there that do name and shame this person, and I won't say the name, but what baffles me with this story, it's a Polish millionaire. It's a Polish CEO.
Oh, wow.
So, I'm assuming, he was very buoyed by the fact that, Majerak, he'd just defeated, Kachanov, and he wanted to take home a little bit of history. But that, again, just adds to really bad optics, doesn't it?
I mean, it's not good, is it? Especially if you've got a successful business, you don't need it. Obviously, it was a very exciting match, which match points were saved. You might be very proud of the person, but at the same time, I mean, you've got to just... You can't rip.
He could have just bought the hat. He could have just messaged.
Imagine
Majerak.
What would you rather have happened if he had given handed some cash over to the kid, immediately just throwing some dollars at him,
exactly.
and we'd be like, okay, fine, yeah,
exactly, right, okay, let's move on. Quick update: Andrei Rublev is now through against Coleman Wong. So Rublev does live to fight another day.
First semi-final coming, Joel.
There we go. I'll collect a set. He is still intact, which I am very happy about. But let's move on to the tennis that did happen on day 6. And let's start, Chris, with Elena Rybakina versus Emma Raducanu, a match we were all looking forward to on Friday. I hope you caught this match because it was over very, very quickly. 6-1, 6-2, just over an hour, going in the way of a rampant Rybakina who is through to round 4. We were sort of getting excited. Rybakina's not had the greatest results at the US Open. Raducanu seemingly coming into form, but also at the same time, seemingly just being dealt with brutally by, flat, aggressive hitters from the back of the baseline. What did you make of this performance? And do you think Raducanu has a problem with Rybakina, or do you think she has a problem with her brand and her style of tennis?
Well, she got more games than she did in Sydney. So I'm focusing on the positives. She got 2 more games. There were no bagels this time. I do think she just is very underpowered in these moments. It's the same as what I saw in the French Open with Swiatek. I think Sabalenka does give her opponents a bit more of a chance at times. She's a bit more up and down sometimes. Whereas if a player like Rybakina is getting like a pretty consistent ball off someone like Raducanu, who doesn't necessarily have the most power in the game, it seems like she could just tee off all the time in the world, hitting winners for fun.
Mm.
She would just look like a level above. I mean, genuinely, it's one of the performances where you just think, how has she not won another slam? Because the hitting is, I mean, it's brutal hitting. It really is impressive. I think from a Raducanu side of things, could she have done more? I think she could have tactically. There are a few things would have liked to seen her do a bit more, like really take on the second serve. I think because it was kind of slipping away from her so quickly, I think it's hard to kind of make those
Yeah.
changes when you barely get, a minute to think. You blink and you've missed the match. So I think she did do an okay job of trying to stay in there, trying to make it tight. There were a couple of chances that she had, but I think you just got to say too good. She was way too good, Rybakina.
Yeah, I mean, stats wise, 11 winners, first serve win percentage of 82 in the first set. And it was a very similar story in the second set as well. So, yeah, I mean, it might be in this case, it was just too good. And there was night and day between the performances of Rybakina and Raducanu, sadly. One thing I wanted to mention, Chris, interestingly, after the match, Raducanu has spoken about the fact that she feels, in her own words, when top players play me, they have a point to prove that they're there for a reason. Every time I've played one, they've shown that. I thought that was quite an interesting comment. Like, she almost kind of feels that when she plays these top ranked players, they go to, they go the extra gear. They go up the extra gear to show them, like, oh no, who's boss against Emma Raducanu. I don't necessarily buy that view personally, but what did you make of it?
Well, she said it before. She kind of
Yeah,
keeps
she
kind
said
of
it after Sabalenka at Wimbledon, I think.
yeah, I think she does kind of repeat this narrative. I think probably now people are.
Do you buy it?
Well, I don't really because her and Rybakina seem to be quite chummy. They play doubles together. I'm not sure that's the person that you really want to hammer home your best result against. I think you want to beat the person that you are friendly with. But with some of the performances early on, I do think potentially players who haven't won a slam, they do want to kind of show that they are better than. I think the first time she played Rybakina was after Emma had won a slam and Rybakina had not won Wimbledon. And I felt like some of those players wanted to prove the point that they are better than Emma and she won a slam. And I can see that, but we're years past that now, I think. It's not like she's Serena Williams and she's got a target on her back. She's Emma Raducanu, who's on the comeback trail. It's not the match that Rybakina is going to be thinking about. Yeah, I really stuck it to Emma. Definitely not the case. So I think people do play great tennis against Emma. I do think there's more responsibility on her side of the net of what can you do against these top players. You can't just say that they play better than they ever do against anybody else because I'm not sure that is always the case.
And yeah, exactly. I mean, just very quickly, Rybakina is she still kind of? Are we treating her a little bit more seriously after this performance as a possible Grand Slam contender in New York?
Well, I mean, she looked really good. She looked better than she did in her second round, that's for sure. Tough next round against Vondrousova. Hard to know how that one will go, but I do think if she plays Sabalenka, I would put my money on Rybakina. I think she's playing probably some of the best tennis of anyone I've seen in the draw. I'm not sure that any of the top players are playing lights out right now. I think it's not the case that there's one favorite who is just playing, a cut above. If there was one, I think this was probably the best performance that I've seen so far.
I mean, it was a great day for Grand Slam champions and upsets because, well, yeah, as you said, Barbora Krejcikova, sorry, Marketa
Vondrousova, yeah,
Vondrousova took out Paulini, the seventh seed, and Barbora Krejcikova also took out Emma Navarro.
came back from
in
behind
three
in that
sets.
final set.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very
I'm
impressive.
really thinking about Krejcikova. I had her for the quarterfinal, but she is so good. She's criminally underrated for a two-time Grand Slam champion. I think she's won like 9 Grand Slams, including like the doubles ones as well. Never done that much at the US Open, and it does just make you think that it's so wide open this draw. Like it's really hard to pick what's going to happen because did not think that Paulini was going to lose to Vondrousova because Vondrousova hadn't had any form since she won the title in Berlin. And the same time, Navarro beat Krejcikova previously this season.
Yeah.
So it really is like who is playing better on the day. You can never really predict right now.
And what's really fascinating with the Krejcikova story is that she's going to go on to face Taylor Townsend. That's like doubles players playing each other on a singles court. I mean, I find that very interesting how that might go. Do you think the Townsend story will continue, or do you think Kachika's is too kind of wily and experienced to,
Ooh.
Is this almost kind of like who's the best singles player on who's the best doubles player on a singles court?
Maybe they'll have that as another competition next year where the doubles players have to play singles for £1 million in the week before the slam. But I honestly think it's probably harder than some of her opponents that she's faced, just not just because, Kuchikova is so good, but because there are so many options that Kuchikova has. And Townsend's so good at mixing up the spins, the slices, she comes in, the volleying. So I do think that it's more of a mirror image of each other than potentially playing against Mira Andreeva, for example, where I can see why her rhythm might be upset a little bit by some of the playing style of Taylor Townsend. So I think it's going to be a tall order. But the Townsend story, you can't really bet against her at this point because of how well she's playing. And when someone's so inspired in front of a home crowd, they can do really, really magical things. And she definitely channels it in the right way. So it's going to be great. And I can see it going into Townsend's favour if she is just so fired up. Because when she's on, I mean, it really is fun to watch.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, on the men's side, Novak Djokovic came through in 4 sets against Cam Norrie. There was an easy win as well for Carlos Alcaraz in 3 sets. Very quickly on Djokovic Norrie, there was a little bit of beef here because in the build-up, Norrie was speaking about the fact that he said he was going to be ready. He was going to be ready for everything, including effectively kind of tactical timeouts. He said, I'm ready for him to play incredibly well. I'm ready for him to not be that good. I'm ready for him to disrupt the match for some reason and then come back and play incredibly well. He had incredible foresight with that quote, because that is sort of what happened in the match, because Djokovic had what looked like an injury to his back, I think called the trainer, and it was seemingly gone, like the more that match sort of went in. But I don't know. Do you feel like there's maybe still lingering physical issues for Djokovic, or do you think this is just a little bit of theatre?
Oh, I've been put on the spot there. I think previously he has managed to heal himself.
Yeah. I know what Kim would say.
I know what Kim would say. There have been questionable things in the past. I think, one match at the Australian Open particularly springs to mind against Taylor Fritz, where I thought he couldn't even really walk, and then he ended up winning that in 5. We've seen it before, but again, is he just the sort of player who can dig to a level that others can't tap into that? I mean, the physio obviously did do some great things. It was proper treatment that he received, so that will help. You don't know if painkillers were taken. We don't really know. But having said that, these things have caught up with him more recently at tournaments. He is human. So I think sometimes when you're playing, and you'll feel it a lot more after the match than you do during. So I think we'll find out in the next match if he is physically challenged by this. But Norrie I was surprised by that, because he is the GOAT. There's a lot of respect you've got to give him. And I don't think you can just be saying prior to this, I'm ready for him to
take tactical timeouts.
Yeah, that feels a bit Elena Ostapenko-esque. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Djokovic will be facing Jan-Lennard Struff next. He has a 7-0 head-to-head, and it's 17-1 in sets. So, a very nice matchup, you would think, for Djokovic. Struff took out Francis Tiafoe. I believe that was in straight sets.
Yes.
It wasn't actually a great day at the office for leading Americans, because Francis Tiafoe went out and Ben Shelton also went out to Adrian Manarino. Now, there were some sad scenes here, Chris, because Shelton had to retire. It was the first time he has retired in 178 career matches. Not the sort of player who, wants to be taken off the court, but it just seemed like, I think there was an arm injury and it was really affecting his play. And the interesting thing here to me was that it wasn't him who wanted to stop. His coach, Brian, his dad, there was he was caught on camera just kind of doing the X sign, and Ben listened to him and was like, right, I'm going to stop there. So quite interesting to see that.
It is, and I can understand why you wouldn't want to retire, but at the same time, you can't, risk, your health, your future prospects because of playing through an injury. I think we've seen, for example, the heroics of Arthur Fils at the French Open, winning a match against Jaume Munar, and then literally having to sit out the whole of Wimbledon and the US Open because of what he did by continuing to play when he was injured. So it's not worth it. I think the wisdom of someone who's been there before on the circuit, Brian Shelton, definitely helped him, paid off there. Doesn't make it easier, but if you are in that much pain, you really shouldn't be playing. But I mean, for Mannarino, you did think this was going to be tight, but what are we talking about?
I know.
Adrian Mannarino is into the fourth
I
round.
know. I thought he would push Shelton. I have that on record. We have that on record in our US Open preview. I did not think he was going to win, and I will go even further than that and say I did not think he was going to find out he was going to win. Well, it sounds like taking a bathroom break or sitting on the toilet, because there was some bizarre scenes at the end where Shelton wanted to retire and shake Mannarino's hand, but Mannarino was off court with a bathroom break.
Yeah, it did feel like he won the match from the toilet, which is something I've actually never heard happen before. And also, it's quite strange. Normally, you'd kind of wait until the match had resumed. I think there was a lot of kind of discussion about whether he was going to continue. But I mean, at the same time, he doesn't really mind how he gets through. Obviously, you'd prefer if you get through winning the match and completing, the last point. But toilet or no toilet, he's into round four.
Yeah, I mean he's been on some good form. He's won 19 of his last 24 matches, but he's also had some rough patches this season. He had a 10-match losing streak at the start of the year, and then another 7-match losing streak across April and May. So very, very surprising. It does mean that we do have 3 players aged 35 or over in the US Open round 4 men's tournament for the first time since 1982 at a Grand Slam, at the US Open, in 1982. Djokovic, Mannarino, and Struff. So there you go.
I mean, I would say the oldies getting it done, but we're not far off those ages, Joel, actually. So we shouldn't necessarily go ham on that topic. But I can't see someone other than Djokovic coming through this section, because the more you look at it for Alcaraz and for Djokovic, I think, semi-final is happening, unavoidable.
I mean, Djokovic Struff is on the night session on Sunday, along with Rybakina, Vondrousova on Ashe, Mahach and Fritz, Sabalenka, Buska of Spain are in the last 2 matches on Louis Armstrong. And opening up, we have Pegula, Lee, Rinderknech, Alcaraz on Ashe, Mannarino, Lehechka, then Krejcikova, Townsend. Very quickly, Chris, what do you make of that schedule? Townsend being put on Armstrong, Alcaraz in the day session.
Yeah, it's quite surprising. Rybakina and Vondrousova as the night match on Ashe. I'm pretty sure that will be quite empty. And I think quite often with Rybakina, they've given her very bad scheduling at the US Open. She's been very far on the outside court. So a bit surprised by that. Djokovic in a night session. I think he's been trying to avoid them, and so has Sinner a little bit. But obviously he is the GOAT, so he has to play them. Not too surprised by that one. But we haven't touched upon Carlos Alcaraz, because he was very, very good. We talk about him losing concentration. He has not lost concentration really this tournament, like at all. So I think he's going to breeze through this one. And I was so impressed with his match that he played. I mean, he was just on fire in that final set, 6-love against Darderi. So I think probably if you want your money's worth, I would put Djokovic on the night session over Alcaraz. But beyond that, I think it's kind of what you'd expect from the scheduling.
I'm getting increasingly worried if Alcaraz does win this tournament with this terrible haircut. I really hope he doesn't feel like it's a good,
Ooh, it could be a ritual every year. He'll do it. Yeah.
Don't do it again.
They do have that on the Tour de France. Geraint Thomas, he has the pre-tour haircut every year, just gets rid of it. So maybe that will be like his brother. His brother will grab, the shears and take it off every time.
And I was just going to mention Anne Lee as well against JPEG opening up on Ashe. Anne Lee got to the final in Cleveland at Tennis in the Land recently. So I don't think that's necessarily a pushover for Pegula. So interested to see how that goes. But we're going to wrap up our latest catch-up of the US Open here at Tennis Weekly HQ. We hope you've enjoyed the ride with us. Remember to subscribe so you don't miss a moment of action from the US Open. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and all your favourite podcasting platforms out there.
And if you love what you're hearing, then make sure to leave us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And you can also hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. And you can even drop us a comment about the episode if you'd like to. You can stay connected with us on all of our social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, and Threads. And all of those have the handle Tennis Weekly Pod. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, you're able to email us at tennisweeklypod@gmail.com. Or, as always, you can visit our website, tennisweekly.co.uk.
And we'll be back on Monday evening for our US Open round 4 catch-up. So I do hope you can join us for that. But until then, it's goodbye from Chris.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time on Tennis Weekly.